Ever pondered the process of integrating servlets and JSP in Java web development? Well, you're about to find out. Servlets and JavaServer Pages, or JSP, are two key components that work hand in hand to create dynamic web applications. But before we delve into the integration process, let's get to know these two a bit more. Servlets, in essence, are Java classes that extend the JavaX Servlet.jtp HTTP servlet class. They are responsible for handling business logic and data processing. By overriding methods such as doGet and doPost, servlets can manage HTTP requests, conduct business operations, process data, and prepare the necessary information to be displayed in the view, which is where JSP comes in. JSP, or JavaServer Pages, handle the presentation layer of your web application. They allow you to embed Java code directly into HTML-like markup using special tags. This provides a flexible way to create dynamic web content. In a JSP file, you can access the data set in the request attributes by using JSP Expression Language, or EL, and scriptlets. Together, servlets and JSP provide a powerful tool for creating dynamic, interactive web applications. They follow the Model View Controller, or MVC, design pattern. This pattern promotes separation of concerns, which means that servlets handle the business logic, while JSPs handle the presentation. This results in cleaner, more maintainable code. Additionally, servlets and JSPs are reusable across multiple pages and components. This reusability makes your web application development process more efficient. Also, by following the MVC pattern, your application becomes more scalable. You can easily add or modify components without affecting other parts of the application. Furthermore, servlets and JSPs offer flexibility. They can be combined with other Java Enterprise Edition technologies and frameworks to create powerful and feature-rich web applications. This flexibility allows you to tailor your web application to your specific needs and preferences. Now that we have an understanding of servlets and JSP, let's move on to the integration process. So, how do we handle user requests using servlets? Well, servlets are essentially Java classes that extend the JavaX Servlet.jtp servlet class. They override methods such as doGet and doPost to handle HTTP requests. In these methods, we perform the business logic, process data, and prepare the necessary data to be displayed in the view, which is the JSP. Let's take a look at an example. Servlet, myservlet.java. Here we've annotated the class with @WebServlet and specified /myservlet as the URL pattern. This means that any request to /myservlet will be handled by this servlet. Inside the doGet method, we're performing some business logic. In this case, it's quite simple. We're creating a string message, hello from servlet. This could be a result from a database query or some other complex operation in a real-world scenario. Next, we're setting this message in the request attribute with the name message. This is how we pass data from the servlet to the JSP. The JSP can later retrieve this data and display it in the view. Finally, we're forwarding the request to a JSP. We're creating a request dispatcher with the path to the JSP and calling the forward method with the request and response objects as parameters. This effectively hands over control from the servlet to the JSP. So, in summary, the servlet handles the user request, performs the necessary business logic and data processing, and then passes the data to the JSP by setting it in the request attribute. It then forwards the request to the JSP for presentation. This demonstrates the separation of concerns principle, where the servlet is responsible for the business logic and data processing, and the JSP is responsible for the presentation. This results in cleaner, more maintainable code, and is one of the key benefits of integrating servlets and JSP. Once the servlet has processed the data, it forwards the request to a JSP. That's where the presentation layer comes into play, which we'll delve into in the next scene. Now let's explore how to create a JSP for presentation. JavaServer Pages, or JSP, is a technology that lets you mix regular static HTML with dynamically generated content. The dynamic part is handled by embedded Java code, which provides a powerful tool for creating interactive web pages. In our example, we're going to create a simple JSP named myJSP. This JSP will be used to display a message that we set in the request attributes from our servlet. Our JSP begins with a standard HTML document structure. We start with a doc-type declaration, followed by the opening HTML tag. Inside the head tag, we set the title of our page. Now here's where the real magic happens. In the body tag, we have an H1 tag with a welcoming message, "Welcome to my JSP page." Following that, we have a paragraph tag. Inside this tag, we're using a JSP expression to display the message we've set in our servlet. The expression $message is JSP expression language, or EL for short. EL provides a way to access data stored in various scopes like request, session, or application. In our case, it's retrieving the message attribute from the request scope. Here's what our JSP looks like. This JSP will display a page with a welcome message and the message we've set in our servlet. Remember, the JSP is handling the presentation of our data. It's creating an HTML page that can be sent to the client's browser. It's not concerned with where the data is coming from. That's the job of our servlet. The beauty of integrating servlets and JSPs is this clear separation of concerns. Each component has a specific responsibility, leading to cleaner, more maintainable code. With our JSP ready, let's see how to map our servlet to its URL pattern. Ever wondered how to map a servlet to its URL pattern? Well, that's where the deployment descriptor, better known as web.xml, comes into play. In a classic web application that uses Servlet 2.x or earlier, the web.xml file is the go-to place to define the mapping between the servlet and its URL pattern. This XML file serves as the heart of your application, controlling the routing of requests, declaring servlets, and defining initialization parameters. It essentially tells your server what to do when it encounters a specific URL pattern. Let's delve into an example of a web.xml file to get a better understanding. In the web app tag, we define two key elements, servlet and servlet mapping. The servlet element is where we declare our servlet. It has two child elements, servlet name and servlet class. The servlet name is an identifier we choose, and it's used to reference this servlet in other parts of the web, OSML. The servlet class is the fully qualified name of our servlet class, including the package. The servlet mapping element is where the magic happens. It's here where we map our declared servlet to a URL pattern. Again, it has two children, servlet name and URL pattern. The servlet name must match exactly the one declared in the servlet element. The URL pattern is the URL that, when accessed, will trigger our servlet. So for example, we might have, in this scenario, when we access the /myservlet URL, our myservlet gets triggered. And just like that, we've successfully mapped our servlet to its URL pattern using the deployment descriptor. Now that we have our servlet mapped, let's discuss the benefits of integrating servlets and JSP. Why integrate servlets and JSP, you ask? Well, let's delve into the benefits of this integration, and I promise you, by the end of it, you'll be wondering why you hadn't done it sooner. Firstly, integrating servlets and JSP provides a clear separation of concerns. Servlets, as the workhorses, handle all the heavy lifting of business logic and data processing. On the other hand, JSPs, the artists of our tale, manage the presentation layer, making your application aesthetically pleasing and user-friendly. This division of labor results in cleaner and more maintainable code. It's like having a well-oiled machine where each part performs its specific function seamlessly. Secondly, we have the advantage of reusability. Servlets and JSPs can be reused across multiple pages and components. This means you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you need a similar functionality. Instead, you create once and use as needed. It's like having a well-stocked toolkit at your disposal, ready to be used whenever required. The third benefit is scalability. The MVC or Model View Controller pattern, which is implemented when integrating servlets and JSP, facilitates scalability. It allows developers to easily add or modify components without causing a domino effect on other parts of the application. It's like having a flexible blueprint that allows for expansion without causing a structural collapse. Lastly, there's flexibility. Servlets and JSPs can be combined with other Java EE technologies and frameworks to create powerful and feature-rich web applications. This is akin to having a versatile chef who can whip up a variety of cuisines using different cooking techniques. So to sum it all up, integrating servlets and JSP gives you a clear division of labor, a reusable toolkit, a scalable blueprint, and a versatile chef. It's like having an all-in-one Swiss Army knife for web development. With these benefits, it's clear why integrating servlets and JSP is a common practice in Java web development.